Welcome back, everybody. Today, we're talking about Salesforce, everyone's favorite customer relationship management / data and analytics / enterprise communication platform / well, you get the picture, they do a lot of stuff. And as a stock, Salesforce has outpaced the market pretty handily over the past decade, but not quite there over the last 5 years. And over the last few months, it's gotten a little rockier, with Salesforce dropping 20% in a single day after their Q1's earnings release hinted at a weaker revenue outlook. And more recently, Klarna CEO said they're shutting down Salesforce and eventually Workday by using AI to be able to simplify and standardize their software set while reducing costs. So the question people are asking is Salesforce and other SaaS companies being disrupted by AI? Well, let's dig into it. Now, I want to start with some good things, though, because Salesforce is an absolute monster of a company. They're the number one CRM provider in the world. They had huge acquisitions over the years, including Tableau for data and analytics and Slack for business communication. And they've grown revenue at an over 22% average annual rate over the past decade. Not to mention, since 2023, they've focused on profitability, and it's paid off big time for shareholders, with their free cash flow margin being up big, as well as implementing share buybacks, helping their free cash flow per share be up over 50% since. And I think this is an important point, because regardless of what happens, this is a big advantage that Salesforce is going to have. Like, they're massive, they're a market leader, and they're already there in terms of enterprise software. And if you've ever worked on one of those efforts before, you know how costly and painful they are to switch. So they're going to have a huge incumbent advantage no matter what. So if that's true, then what's the actual problem? Well, back in May, Salesforce reported their Q1 earnings, where they narrowly missed revenue estimates by about $20 million, but gave sales estimate guidance that was lower than expectations. And while the miss was small, this was a company trading at around a 50 PE, saying they only expected single-digit revenue growth. So the market dropped the stock 20% in a single day. In addition to the revenue forecast, there were other things that were cause for concern. Their current remaining performance obligation, or CRPO, is also seeing declining growth. And CRPO is a term for SaaS companies that's kind of like their backlog of revenue under contract that hasn't been billed or realized yet. So it gives you a glimpse into the future revenue for a SaaS company. So I think we get the point. This has been a very high growth company trading at a very high multiple that is now experiencing slowing growth and a weaker growth outlook. So it makes sense that the stock would come down a bit. But the real question is this slowdown temporary or a sign of things to come in the future? Now, on that earnings call, they said management pointed out enterprise customers continue to be cautious about IT spending amid the current macro environment. And this makes some sense. You have companies out there with slowing revenues or doing layoffs. They're finding ways to cut costs across the board, so heavy IT spend is someplace that they're definitely going to look. But the more interesting question is, well, what if the problem is bigger than that?
And really, I think what happened is over the past couple years, and really over the past decade, every company was focused on digital transformation, migration to the cloud, and especially during 2020, 2021, probably overbought software. And now CIOs are taking a look at their IT budgets and saying, where can we scrutinize spend? What is truly necessary? Where can we reduce costs? You combine that with all the headcount reductions that we're seeing out there, especially in the tech sector. And I think that all makes sense. And then maybe lastly, I will add, increasingly, I think there is a crowding out effect when it comes to AI. As I've talked about actually on your show many times, I'm a huge believer in AI. But what I think is happening is CIOs are kind of going all hands on deck when it comes to AI, figuring out their AI strategy, who the right vendors are working, to work with, getting their data estate in order. And I think that is leading to a deprioritization of migration to the cloud, deprioritization of expansion. I'm not saying it's cannibalizing budget, but that deprioritization is what I think is showing up in all the numbers we've seen this earnings season.
Now, while the long-term impact of that is hard to gauge, we did get our first news story kind of hinting at this last week, with a Klarna CEO saying they're shutting down Salesforce and Workday by leveraging AI tools in an attempt to simplify their software stack and obviously reduce costs. And while at this point we don't have a lot of details, some people remain skeptical.
The CEO of Klarna recently said that he has replaced Salesforce and Workday using AI, and he had made earlier comments in the year about using AI to streamline his workforce. He's trying to get down to just 2,000 employees. I believe Mark Benioff has already commented on this and said, I don't believe it. What tools is he using? Nevertheless, if he's true and if this bears out and if other companies are experimenting in this direction, it's a major problem.
Those comments have caught a lot of attention. I've been thinking a lot about them too, because you can see how you could replace eventually Salesforce and a Workday with an AI agent, exactly the kind of AI agent that Benioff says is going to be so useful. However, Kelly, I will say I've talked to a number of people here in the Bay Area in tech about what they're doing if they see a world, tech companies, if they see a world in which they can get rid of Salesforce and Workday. They say that those comments were really provocative and quite a stretch. Klarna is a private company, though they do publish some of their financial results. I feel like the narrative, or at least the consensus that I've heard, is that they were overreaching a little bit. But I mean, that is sort of the existential question for many of these SaaS companies.
Right now, people aren't really sure what this means or how realistic that is. But for me personally, I have some experience with this because I started my career as a programmer. I actually worked on big mission critical enterprise systems that process payments. And so I understand what it means to kind of write and support important code. And of course, the difference is being able to just write code isn't the same thing as replacing an enterprise software suite. There's a lot of other complexity there, and writing code is arguably the easiest part of that process. But here's the thing. We're only at the beginning of this. Like, what capabilities are going to be there a year from now, or 2 years from now, or 3 years? I mean, this isn't a trend that's going to reverse itself. I mean, the ability now for non-technical people to create software is going to be a game changer, and it's something that any software company needs to be thinking about. And I think what we found with Salesforce is that they're thinking about it, and in a big way.
Salesforce CEO Mark Benioff delivering the keynote speech at his annual Dreamforce meeting, making a big AI push, saying he wants to offer, quote, future as a service. Investors are already questioning the fate of software as a service. The shares are down 2% on the year, while the S&P's up 18%. Deirdre Bosa has more in Tech Check, and he's on the back foot here with AI, Deirdre.
He is. He's trying to make the case that he's on the front foot. But, you know, Benioff is nothing if not a showman and the ultimate salesman. But, Kelly, beyond the glitz and the entertainment, Benioff acknowledged that this is the most important Dreamforce ever. Revenue growth at Salesforce has hit its slowest pace in over a decade. Investors, they're wondering if Salesforce, along with other SaaS companies like Workday, Atlassian, and Adobe, wonder if they will thrive or just be replaced in the age of generative AI. So far, software has been left behind by the shift. Here's Benioff himself on the stakes.
We want to be the first to welcome you into the future. We want to be the first to welcome you into the future. And we look at our Salesforce platform as your future as a service. We want to future-proof you, not only in your careers, but your companies
too. Benioff says that Agent Force is what he's calling it. Agent Force will be the key. That's a set of products capable of taking action on their own to automate existing CRM tools, basically like a chatbot for everything that Salesforce already does.
So not only has Salesforce made their AI agents the new driver of their company's strategy, they've partnered with NVIDIA to make it happen, even having Jensen at their conference. So if we go back to our original question, it was, is Salesforce being disrupted by AI? And the short answer is yes. I mean, the proof is simply just look at what they're doing in their strategy. I mean, they know it's a threat. That's why they're attacking it. And that's why they're partnering with NVIDIA. I mean, they're getting ahead of it. They don't want their customers out there even moonlighting or thinking about the idea that they could be replaced with AI tools. What they'd rather be is say, look, we're partnering with the best AI company out there, and we're going to be your AI provider of choice. Don't worry about those little side projects and trying to reduce your costs. We're going to give you more massive productivity gains by being your AI strategy for you. So is Salesforce being disrupted by AI is simply the wrong question, because of course they are, just like every single software company will be. The right question to ask is, will Salesforce be able to integrate AI features and leverage their current advantages to continue their growth and profitability story or not? And it definitely looks like they have a plan and approach to do so, but we won't know for sure until we see the results. Now, for me personally, I do think there's an interesting tidbit here that's worth watching for Salesforce, because how these enterprise SaaS things work is companies like Salesforce get into your business and they're almost like a parasite. Like, they want to keep doing more and more. They're trying to upsell you. They're trying to do more things and justify the productivity gains so that they continue growing revenue each year by providing you more services and doing more for your business over time. It's just the nature of what they do. And even their most recent Agent Force thing, they're literally saying, hey, look, you already have our software. Now we'll give you agents that can run parts of your business automatically. You can cut labor costs, probably, and all you have to do is pay us a little bit more for the feature. And ultimately, if the return on investment is there for the business, then it can be a compelling pitch. But that's how they grow revenue, in addition to obviously getting new customers. But regardless of how good their AI strategy is, I think there's some trends to watch going forward. Because AI is going to make writing code a commodity. Like, there's no doubt in my mind that that's true. But software is more than just writing code. It's integration, it's support, it's scaling, and all those things. So for many companies, the decision is going to be how much of our expense budget is going to Salesforce or any other SaaS company, and how much true value are we getting for that spend? And then what would the level of effort be to replace it with something simpler, more customized to our own business, and supported by us in-house? And I said those things like they're easy, they're definitely not, but not every company needs some heavy enterprise software suite to be able to run their business. And I think the bigger concern for companies like Salesforce is, what is this trend going to do in terms of their pricing power and margins? Because think about it, being able to quickly develop software means the competition is going to ramp up. And maybe it's from their own customers wanting to do it themselves or just from other companies. And if those companies already have IT shops in-house that are doing their integration, support, and scaling, then the question will be, well, why not just take this on too? Now, of course, this is all much more complicated to actually do than just talk about, but it's a big, obvious target to go after. Do you want to keep paying Salesforce or Workday or whoever X amount of dollars each year with constant upsells and price increases? Or you can do something more specialized and quicker that you would support yourself. Plus, the amount of tools available to you to experiment with this has grown exponentially, with AI assistants and companies specializing in those things, as well as free or relatively low-cost LLMs that you can leverage. So at a minimum, this is something that any competent IT shop should be asking themselves. And it's not something that's going to get harder over time, it's only going to get easier. So even if Salesforce is successful at implementing their AI strategy, I'm curious to see how things like revenue growth, gross profit margin, and CRPO progress for the company. Because there's a chance that even if they don't get totally disrupted, their business model may become more commoditized with less pricing power and increased competition due to the capabilities that AI will bring about. And if that happens, then this isn't a 40 PE company, at least in my opinion. So the question for investors is really understanding why you're invested in this company. Is it because you think that growth is going to reaccelerate with those new AI capabilities, or just continued market share dominance? Then yeah, I can see them continuing to do buybacks and growing free cash flow per share, but overall growth rate versus valuation is still going to be a question mark. But if you're an investor that's like, look, I think they're going to go back up to a 50 or 60 PE or like a 40 price to cash flow, I just don't really know. I think there's going to be a lot of challenges ahead trying to eat away at that possibility. So for me, it's something I'll be watching to see how it evolves. So what do you guys think about Salesforce and possible disruption due to AI? Let me know down in the comments below. Now, if you want to see what company I think might be the best bargain in big tech, you can watch that video by clicking this right here. Hope you guys have a great day out there. Financial independence is true freedom, so keep building and stacking wins, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.